Hello everyone. For my diet analysis project part 2, you will be answering questions pertaining to the carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. So first what you want to do is you want to open up these documents. The My Diet Analysis project part 2, the protein calculation document, and the dietary reference intake documents. So, once you open up the My Diet Analysis Project Part 2 document, you will see that the reports that you will be using for this project will be the actual intake versus the recommended intake report, the all-nutrient spreadsheet report, and the calorie and fat sources report. In the first section, you will be answering questions pertaining to your carbohydrate intake. First and foremost, remember that all of your answers on this project must be typed, not handwritten, and in complete sentences to receive full credit. So what you want to do now is to go to the My Diet Analysis website. Once you're at the My Diet Analysis website, click on the Open My Diet Analysis in a new window. Then click on the Reports tab. Now, you can do one of two things. You can either open up each report individually. Here's the actual intake report. Here's the calories and fat sources report. Here's the all nutrients spreadsheet report. Or you can open up the all daily reports that will have all of the reports in one viewing. So it is up to you which would be the easiest for you to answer the question. So the first question says, how many grams of carbohydrate did you consume? So you're looking at the actual intake versus the recommended intake report. So here's the actual intake versus recommended intakes report, and you're looking at the grams of carbohydrate, which is right here. So this is an example. You're looking at the actual number, and in this case, it's 89.14 grams. And so that is what you would put for that answer. How many calories does this represent? You should know how to figure that out by now. If you don't know how to figure out how many calories are in an item from carbohydrate, protein, and fat, please go back to your Math Basics homework section and review that video that tells you how to figure that out. Now, another question is asking you to use the calories and fat sources report. This is an example of the calories and fat sources report. That is where you'll find the answers to that question for the calories and fat sources. Now, another question is asking you, what is the consumption of fiber in grams that you recorded for 3 days? And you have to go back to the actual intake versus the recommended intake report. So, here is the dietary fiber, and you see you have soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Your answer needs to be with the dietary fiber, which in this case would be 15.87 grams. It's not asking you for soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, nor do you add all three of these together. It is the dietary fiber that you're wanting to put the answer down for, this number right here. So again, you use the dietary fiber answer. You do not add the soluble and insoluble fiber together. You're just looking at the dietary fiber for that question. Okay? Now the second section is dealing with evaluating your fat intake. And again, you're going to use the actual intake versus the recommended intake to see how many grams of fat did you consume. And again, you're just looking at the fat, not the saturated, the trans, the mono, or the poly. Only the fat grams. How many calories does this represent? Again, you should know how to calculate your calories from fat grams. If you don't know how, go back and look at the Math Basics video. These other questions are dealing with the calorie and fat sources report, or either the all nutrients spreadsheet, and the third section is dealing with evaluating your protein intake. What you need to really pay attention in this section is letter D, because how many grams of protein you consume and how many calories does this represent is really not hard to find that information. But for letter D, it says to calculate your personal protein RDA as well as show your calculations. You must show your calculations. If you do not show your calculations, then points are going to be lost. Now, to answer this, there are two different places that you can go to help you to calculate your personal protein calculation. One place is the document that I told you to open up, which is the protein calculation document, and it shows you step by step how to calculate your individual protein needs. So that is one place. The next place is the calculating protein needs video in mastering, and that video will show you and help you in how to calculate your individual protein needs. So those are the two places that you need to go to help calculate your personal protein RDA. After you calculate your personal protein RDA, letter E says to open up the dietary reference intake file. So, you have the dietary reference intake file right there. So if you open it up, this is what you will see. And you will need to scroll down to where you see protein. So there is the protein and amino acids. You need to find your gender as well as your age, and look over to find your RDA for your age and gender. Once you find your RDA for your age and your gender, you need to compare it with your personal protein calculation. So, how does your personal protein calculation compare to the RDA for a protein of your age and sex? And how you find that out is by going back to the dietary reference intake file. If you don't answer that or put the wrong answer, you will lose points for that. In letter F, how does your grams of protein answer in number A? So how many grams of protein did you consume? However many grams of protein you consumed in letter A, how does that compare with your personal protein calculation in letter D? Did you eat twice as much? Did you exceed twice your RDA? If so, you are spending protein prices for an energy-yielding nutrient and displacing other foods. So you have to compare A with D and see if you are consuming twice your RDA. And if you are, then what substitutions could you make in your day's food choices so that you could derive the energy you need from carbohydrate rather than protein? Okay? So the other answers are very self-explanatory as to what reports you need to look at. You will also need to refer to your book in some of these questions for chapters 4, 5, and 6. So you need to have your book handy. Explain 2 health risks associated with consuming a diet high in protein. That's going to be from chapter 6. Suggest 3 meat alternatives from plant sources. Again, chapter 6. 3 health benefits of consuming a vegetarian diet. Chapter 6. The same thing with letter I. Those are from chapter 6. In the carbohydrate section, it's asking you something that you will be getting it out of your book about diabetes, about the glycemic index, how you can control your blood sugar. That's in chapter 4. Why fiber is important. That's in chapter 4. And in chapter 5, it's going to be asking you what food sources you could consume that are high in monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat, and what foods could you consume to better reach the recommendations of omega-3 fatty acids, and that would be in chapter 5. So have your book handy in order to answer these questions, along with the reports.